I'll get started though. Hello everyone, my name is Nathan Lachner. I am, among other things, the performance chair of the Nebraska Poetry Society, a position I stumbled my way into just over a year ago, but have done my best to make something out of it. The title of this talk is incredibly impromptu. I have no slides, I have no nothing. I did not come here planning to do a talk today, but I saw the poor maker's track completely devoid of any rules. And I was like, I'll do the thing I do every bar camp and break down and give a talk anyway. I've been coming to bar camp since I was like 10. My dad drugged me out back when it was at the Slowdown, and I've given talks ever since like 2013. And it's become a tradition to me to spontaneously decide that no, indeed, I do have public speaking in my heart. And I'm definitely not terrified of all of you right now. The title of this talk is based off a topic near and dear to my heart, which is that nonprofits need your help. And the reason I have the Nebraska Poetry Society website up right now is to demonstrate to you a few of the things that you might not think about as being integral to working with a nonprofit, especially like Poetry Society, like we do writing and stuff. But we don't have much money right now. One of the things that you might not know about a lot of nonprofit grants is that you generally need your organization to be over 5 years old for a lot of bigger ones, which means we're 4 years. The reason the Nebraska Poetry Society is so young, there used to be one back in the 70s, but the new organization was formed because the Writers Guild sort of decided to abandon poetry, and we went, why? It felt really bad because there's a really huge and thriving poetry community in this state. It just completely got abandoned. We're just coming up on our fourth anniversary in October, and really all of us putting this together, we're poets, writers primarily. I've got the most technical experience on the committee, and I'm a spreadsheet wizard by day. No one, for example, manages our website. This is a Wix site, which is fine, but like not super great. It's laggy. Its design's a little weird. You can see like right here, like this giant panel, very tiny piece of information. Things are hard to find. Like everything's drop-down menus, but it always zips around. It's impossible to figure out. Like, what is the poet rabble? Like you can click on it and you kind of get a description, but like turns out it's like a magazine thing. And this is kind of goes to the core of what I really wanted to talk about today, which is that you don't necessarily need to be a writer just to help out a writing nonprofit. You don't necessarily need to be into the thing that a nonprofit is doing for these people who need your help. We really could use someone who could do some basic web development, not necessarily even breaking out of Wix, but maybe some custom stuff, maybe just understands how the platform works, maybe just has time to tinker with it and kind of knows how websites should look. And that's a lot of what we struggle with. It's just how do we, what skills are we missing? And they're almost always the hard skills. They're almost always the, we don't have an accountant, for example, and there's a lot of optional documentation that you don't have to fill out in Nebraska to be a nonprofit. But if you don't have it, a lot of grants won't give you the time of day. If you have accounting experience, that's actually kind of my day job. You can like look at forms and help people fill things out. And we don't have much money to work with, so it's not like our books are very hard to manage. But that's sort of the idea. And one of the big things I really wanted to start this conversation around is sort of, and I wanted to ask you guys, like, do any of you work with nonprofits? Do any of you work with local organizations? What do you do there? And more importantly, what do you feel like you're missing? Like, can we connect? I'm assuming all of you are at least interested in this idea, and I'm hoping maybe this can be a space for some connections.
Oh,
you raised your hand.
I raised my hand because I know a lot of nonprofits and I work for a nonprofit, but I'm a social worker in terms of like accounting and such as I'm not very long.
That's entirely fair. Is what I'm talking about resonant to you? Is this
Yes. Oh, 1,000 times.
is this a challenge you guys face?
Yes.
What's one thing you're missing? What nonprofit do you work for?
Just Tabitha Home Hospice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'd say a big thing is just people knowing that nonprofit hospice is an option. And so a lot of
marketing.
Marketing. A lot of it is just getting the name out there and being open without being hate neutral and just be present at community events.
Yes. No, I completely understand that. Effectively, that's kind of my job at the Nebraska Poacher. I'm the guy who doesn't shut up about what we do, because someone has to not shut up about what we do, or no one will remember that we exist. So I completely understand. I'm also responsible for marketing all of my events. It's a lot of work. But no, marketing is definitely one of those things. If you know how to copyright, you know how to put a graphic together. I had to learn how to use Canva a couple months ago, and I'm not good at it. My girlfriend's a graphic designer, and thank God for that. She took one look at the book here as an example. And that's why I pulled my laptop in, because I want to be able to show off examples. If I go to the Nebraska Poetry Society Instagram, which is where we do a ton of our advertising on, so the graphic community, this is an event that literally I hosted last night. It's a pretty good graphic. The original version of this had 4 separate fonts, way more text than this. There was no picture. The picture of Alexandra was not cropped into a circle. It was masked into a circle by a hidden element I jury-rigged in. And there was it was way worse. My girlfriend basically took one look at it and went, okay, we're going to start over. And she knows things this is an event we're running next week. Did you know if you have a Samsung phone and you have a picture of a person, you can long press on the picture of that person and it will auto cut them out of the picture and let you save it as a transparent image?
iPhones do that too.
Yeah, iPhones do it too. I did not know that. I thought you had to have fancy software to do this, and it turns out I could just do it on my phone, save it, and upload it to Canva. Made putting this poster together 1,000 times easier. And there are still problems with this poster. Do not get me wrong. This still has my terrible smudgy fingerprints all over it. But this is a great example of just because my girlfriend knows graphic design, so she helped me out a little bit. Cost her an hour of her time. And now I've got a template I can build events off. That sort of thing. It's a huge deal when it comes to this. And you can tell, some of our posters are not as great. This is not even a picture of the space this event happens inside of. That was that. So, does anyone else here work with nonprofits?
Well, I guess the reason I'm here is there are nonprofits I'm interested in, I believe in. I'd like to volunteer. I have set of skills that I think might be useful, but how do I make the connection and match up their needs to what I can do?
So most nonprofits are going to have a contact email somewhere on their website. Seriously, just reach out. The amount of work, I have built a committee of people that work with me to help build events and things. And a lot of that legwork came down to the fact that it's really just if I ask someone to reach out to me, there's a 10% chance that they're going to, and a 90% chance that I will never hear from them. Be the person to make contact. If you care about something, if you want to work with something, be the person to make contact. They will find a way to use your skills. The biggest thing when it comes to doing work with nonprofits is because these organizations have to be driven by passion, definitely not driven by money. The people in charge of them care. And the biggest thing I found when it comes to people caring is that they generate ideas like rabbits generate offspring. I am drowning in things I want to do and dying of thirst of the ability to do any of them. So That's the biggest thing. Look for our contact emails, shoot someone a message, give someone a phone call. Like, realize that can be scary for some people who are closer to my age, but like make the connections because it matters.
Also, I'd like to point out that if it is a nonprofit that happens to host events or a nonprofit that goes to events, if they have any representatives there, just flag them down and say, hey, do you guys need help with it? And you just start a conversation about it.
Like if you want to work with Barcamp and help make Barcamp a thing, go find Will and throw markers at Barcamp or me.
Is it better to say, like, I'll do anything, I'll do grunt work, or to say, I have these special high value skills?
I would say it comes down to sort of, my thing is that the best and most effective commitments are long-term ones. So it comes down to like, are you willing to do grunt work for a long time? Because if not, if doing those specialized things is easier for you to stay engaged with the work, then do that. Because short-term commitment, like for example, part of the reason I'm making our own graphics, we had a social media manager at the Nebraska Poetry Society for about 4 months. Just as she was getting pretty good at putting stuff together, she found a job that took her away. And she hadn't had time to build any systems in place to let anyone else take over that work. She just had to go. And really, I kind of had to start almost from scratch. Like the basic template of this graphic was hers, but I had to change so much because of her idiosyncratic styles and figuring out Canva my own way in events. So make it about what you can do, what you can commit to long term, because sustainability is huge. It's the only way you can build anything stable. Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I do work with a couple nonprofits, and I find it's super helpful to know what your skills are, what you really think you can contribute. But to your point, I have about 2 hours a week, or I have 5 hours a month. That kind of also helps us find the fit, because the jobs are always way more than the capacity to fill. And so then that just kind of helps prioritize, but also tries to make it sustainable.
Yeah. No, you can always, like, it's with any sort of obligation, and especially with nonprofits, I found that the flexibility is a little bit higher because there is that recognition. So, like, Zaria, may I use you as an example?
Yeah.
Zaria here is on my committee on the performance committee, and I had not given her much to do. I'd given her like a couple tiny projects, but I hadn't really been able to conceptualize what. She basically came to me and demanded more work. And I basically went, okay, cool. I went, what do you think about these ideas? And for example, I was like, what do you think? There's this poetry workshop we used to go to that had to shut down because the space was still unavailable and the coordinators were no longer working at that space. And so it just wasn't working out. I basically told her, cool, find a way to recreate that. We love that space. That space was near and dear community. It was 25 people who met every 2 weeks to just really care about something together. 25 people is really all I've ever found it takes to change wildly complicated things. There's this great quote from The West Wing I love, which is never underestimate the capacity of a small, dedicated group of citizenry. It's the only way anything ever gets done. And Zaria said, sure. It's a pipe dream, but it is a big complicated. You got to source a venue, and you got to source maybe sponsors and maybe all these other things. But like,
I'm like several cities, and I have those graphs right now. All sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
Just like these.
Yep, and that's how it happens. That's how you put together.
I would just also say too, like from my own personal experience, when I worked in corporate America for a long time as a leader, and now working in nonprofits, in some leadership roles, like it's forced me to really become a much better leader because you don't have positional power. They can come and go. There's not raises. There's not, and so like from a skills development and a human development perspective, like I have gained so much.
Reciprocity is key.
Yeah, it's
for example, one of the members of my committee is applying to a new position. And he did his resume for me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, here's the thing I can offer you. It's like, because we have this connection, let's do this thing. And he was expecting like a couple tiny items, and I chewed through the whole thing. I was like, no, you gotta get, here's the entire page of feedback, longer than your resume. Because like, yeah, you can do those things. And reciprocity, thank you for bringing that up. It's a huge point. Is oftentimes nonprofits are about community. Find ways to build reciprocal relationships. Find ways to, like, one of the things I do, like, for example, this event is in partnership with the Union for Contemporary Art. They're a nonprofit that exists up in North Omaha. They do communal art spaces. They do workshops. They do, one of my favorite things they do is they do co-op spaces. So, like, they have a screen printer. You can go in and for $15 a month, you can reserve time on the screen print. You can go screen print shirts. If you have a small event you need to run, like I know Will has his own printing process because that's a thing he does. But if Barcamp had needed someplace to print shirts, I would have pointed you guys here because it's cheap and it's great and the people there are wonderful. And one of the things I do is I shout this organization's praises because they gave us a venue to host a thing. Do not, in an accounting world, you'd call it an in-kind donation. Do not underestimate the value of things that do not have monetary value. Like, yes, would it be amazing if they gave me money so that I could be paid for the events I do? Sure, but I would host the events anyway since I care about the community now. I need a space to do it. They have a really cool black box theater that I can make stuff happen. And that's... Oh, right, Instagram. Sorry. I was looking, I was like, wait, is my Windows menu open? No, it's just Instagram's dumb. But yeah, that's a huge thing in a nonprofit. And if you need something out of an organization, like, feel free to, it's not always possible, but like, try to develop, those relationships are how communities stay put together. It's huge. The art gallery that hosts this event. I get in this event for free because I've been supporting the institution since they go to their events. I've decorated my apartment with artwork I bought there. I'm going to get my first tattoo there when I work up the nerve.
Where is that?
South Omaha, 1808 Benton Street. I know the owners. I know their story intimately. They do an open mic of their own because this is a beat poetry jam. So I do specifically poetry stuff. It's not PS, but they do music. They do all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it's building reciprocal relationships. Any other questions?
So I worked at the zoo, which is a nonprofit, but it's kind of an anomaly nonprofit because it's the zoo. And then things like, fundraising is like, you get to see the giraffe. That's a task that needs to be done anyway. But utilizing bigger nonprofits, like volunteer with them, because their amount of people who have retired that volunteer and then you start to get to know them and they're like, well, I have all these connections, I know these people. And then they're like, I want to help you because we had a volunteer that would volunteer in different museums, the zoo every day. And so many of them were just like, I just want to do something to help out. And a lot of them did find smaller nonprofits and use the connections they had. Getting a hold of just a volunteer coordinator from somewhere like the zoo. The zoo is a little harder just because when I worked there, we couldn't even get the phones answered on a regular basis if it was certain times of year. But some of those bigger nonprofits, even though the people in it maybe aren't the ones that can help you, their volunteers are going to be great resources too.
Yeah, I know. I think to sort of broaden that point, wealth in the nonprofit space looks like connection.
Yeah.
It looks like it's the people it really is about the people and definitely those that we've got some people, the NPS that Matt Mason is one thing, one of the people we talked to. Does anyone here know who Matt Mason is? Yes. State poet, outgoing state poet. he's fantastic. He's done a lot to promote our stuff, help us out. I think, not mistaken, this month he hit his last county in Nebraska. He did a featured, he's goes to, as a state coach, to a featured event in every county in Nebraska, and in his last one, like in his last month. But if you follow his Instagram, you can see him tracking, like, I got these states, like, the map is now filled in. Yeah, it's journeys like that. Anything else?
Well, I, for one, didn't know that Nebraska had a poetry society. So
Lots of people don't.
I'm glad you opted to today about it. So.
If you want to know more, please come find me. I have business cards. We have our website.
Yeah, I'm a poet.
Be it as it may.
Suggested.
It's poetry is a fragmented community in Omaha and Lincoln and the state of Nebraska, but it is a vibrant community. The quality of writers we produce is ridiculously insane, and I'm pretty sure it has something to do with the not having anything else to do. But like, I am in constant awe of the quality and caliber of poets I find here. Quality and caliber of speakers I find here. It's ridiculous. And part of that is down to, we have one of the largest youth slam poetry programs in the world, run by the Writers Club, which unfortunately isn't us. But they do such amazing work, I'm okay with it. Because they're a fantastic organization. And our sister organization have a lot of folks. But that goes to a bigger point, which is, you gotta, like, one of the biggest things you can do is you can just be an advocate. And being an advocate sometimes literally just means going into a space where no one's gonna know a thing exists and mentioning it. Because I'm mentioning it the 5 or 6 times it takes me to remember the name. I do come back to that point of the biggest thing I do is not shut up.
Also, don't underestimate the power of social media algorithms. One of the very, very easy things for you to support a nonprofit that you like was to, like their posts on the social medias, share their stuff.
Yeah, no kidding.
The word and the messaging, because it's so hard and so expensive to do that on a large scale. If you can do that on a word of mouth basis, that's extraordinarily valuable.
That is huge. It is incredible. Anything else? Well, then I want to thank you all so much for coming to this incredibly impromptu talk. I did not foresee myself being on the board of a nonprofit just over a year ago, but I legitimately couldn't imagine myself doing any other kind of work.
You mentioned that it's 4 years old and they're 5. It's eligible for more types of grants. Is there anything you all have your eye on?
A couple things. Our president would know more about that because she tracks a lot of the grants and things. My job really is to build out a base of activities that makes us appealing in general to whatever we want to apply to. But there's definitely like Nebraska Arts Council grants, National Arts Council grants, a lot of money for that sort of stuff. Really dried up during the pandemic. And so the competition around it is a little fierce right now. But getting ever so slightly better. Hopefully. But I would say it's a lot of those big sort of community building grants. But yeah, thank you all so much. And if you have any questions, please come talk to me. I have my tin of business cards. And I hope you all have an amazing hour and a half yet of parking.